Good morning to all of you. So you see the countdown for preliminary 2019 has begun. Clear? So you must fasten your seat belts because this is now a roller coaster ride. This is the first step for your success. It is essential for all of you not to miss the classes. That's first and paramount. Secondly, you must also focus on a strategy that you should have at your disposal for this examination. See, everyone has the same resources, perhaps more or less the same capabilities also. We all suffer from weaknesses and we all possess strengths, and they are more or less similar. Well, most of you, I suppose, are at least graduates, clear, or at least pursuing graduation. So in that sense, you will see that more or less you are at par. Then what separates the best from the rest? It is a strategy, a good soundproof strategy that is essential for success. And that strategy is not only with respect to preparation, but also with respect to how you will approach the exam paper in the examination hall. Like I and someone else might have prepared in the same fashion, but it's my approach in the examination for that 2 hours that can create the difference. That can assure a berth for me in the mains examination. How many students write mains roughly? 15,000 more or less, clear. And how many of them go to the interviews? 3,000 nearly. So can you see the ratio is nearly 5:1. It means you have to dislodge 4 others to get a berth for yourself. Are you understanding this? Then 3,000 go for the interviews, and how many get to the final list? Approx 1,000. So what's the ratio? 3:1. It means you have to dislodge 2 others to get a berth for yourself. What is the number of people appearing for the preliminary examination? Huh? Approximately 6 lakhs. Clear? And perhaps this year the numbers will grow. Every year it grows. Clear? And because it is the election year, there's a great possibility that there will be more seats. And if there are more seats, there will be more forms. Do you understand this? People will get a kind of, they would get influenced by the number of seats and they may appear for the examination. So, assuming that there would be at least 5 lakhs, 5 lakh to 15,000, now you count the ratio. Can you understand the gravity of competition? It is not the level of examination that is causing trouble. It is the level of competition that is causing trouble. Do you understand this? So, we need to develop a strategy by which we can have a foolproof plan that would guide us in a certain fashion. Also, one more important thing is, when is the examination? 2nd of June. 2nd of June 2019 is the examination. Now, suppose I make a start, early start. Early start doesn't mean success all the time, because you see that as you make a start, can you understand that there will be a point where you would reach your peak? Do you understand this? And suppose that peak happens to be, say, 31st of January 2019. What would happen after that? Once you reach a peak, there is always decay. Do you understand this? And you can understand by the time the examination date has actually come, you can see the deficit. There are 3 kinds of problems that aspirants face. First is you are not aware of the answer. It's information deficit. Second is you are aware of few things, but there's total confusion and chaos in the examination hall. Matlab A bhi lag raha hai, B bhi, C bhi or D bhi. Do you understand this? If this is the situation, that's the worst that any aspirant can have. Because in this case, there is the least probability that you will mark the correct answer, because everything seems correct to you. Do you understand this? One thing is you have no idea. Second is you have some idea and everything is relating to the question. That's the second kind of problem, is the worst kind of problem. And the last is when you have confusion, it means at least you have, say you have negated 2 options and you're left with 2 others. What should I do then? and how I can escape these kind of problems. There are two things that you need to assure. First is you should have no confusion in the examination, and you should be brimming with confidence while you are preparing. Do you understand this? That confidence will not develop overnight, it will develop with your preparation in a gradual fashion. Also, as you have to cultivate confidence, you have to negate confusion. Perform as if you're the best. Have this in mind. But prepare as if you're the worst. Do you understand this? Just ulta hota hai. We prepare as if we are the best and we perform as if we are the worst. Do you understand this? Just the reverse you have to arrange. It means you have to think this in mind, that there has to be a strategy. And we'll try to develop that in these 90 days. So what my quest would be? My quest would be to take you in a gradual fashion so that you reach your peak on that day. Have you heard all good artists, players, or creative people, they all say that we are at our peak. And peaking at the right time ensures success. One more thing is, I have found that most of the aspirants, this comes from my experience, that most of the aspirants are result oriented and view this examination in a compartmentalized manner. Both are dangerous waters to enter in, because this examination first is not compartmentalized, it is an integrated journey, and preliminary is only the first step towards it. And secondly is, you should avoid reading so much different variegated sources, because that creates a lot of confusion. अब मैंने पढ़ लिया कि फंडामेंटल राइट्स क्या होते हैं एक सोर्स से, लेकिन मेरे को चैन नहीं आ रहा, मैंने 4 और सोर्सेज से पढ़े हैं, तो मैं फंडामेंटल राइट से पढ़ता रह जाऊंगा 90 दिनों तक. Do you understand this? When others will start their preparation, you should end your preparation at that point. Do you understand this? When others would prepare for the first time, you should revise, you should enrich your preparation. That should be the way. And for that, the first thing to assume is examination is not on 2nd of June. That's the first thing that you should assume. It is actually on the 1st of May. This is how you should prepare, and you will find that this time of 30 days, as you prepare on 30th of April, if you're completely prepared on 30th of April, you will find that these 30 days will create magic for you. It will give you that confidence which I am talking about. It is so easy to find this confidence in speeches, but so difficult to discover it within you. But that will happen only when you dismantle the traditional thought process. And what is the traditional thought process? अरे अभी तो बहुत टाइम है, 6 महीने बाकी हैं एग्जाम के लिए. नहीं बाकी है. Can you understand? You are fighting with the best talent in this country. There will be IPS officers also giving the examination with you, who are aspirants for IAS. Do you understand this? So you have to be at your best if you want to clear this examination. And for this, you have to understand each and every concept equally. Now, current affairs. How much is important current affairs is? Without a shadow of doubt, current affairs is the key to success. After 2014, is there any pattern of UPSC examination? Perhaps, yes, you can see a pattern, but is there any trend also? Yes, there is one, in which you will find that questions are given an orientation of, it means, जैसे बोलते हैं ना, करंट का लेप चढ़ाया जा रहा है सारे क्वेश्चंस पे. They are making questions more interesting for the candidate if he has a good base. You see, why current affairs? And things like, you will see certain things like current affairs, map marking, they are given prominence now. That's 2 things. Let's call spade a spade. So I'm telling you 2 established facts. First fact is UPSC hate old timers. That's a fact. UPSC loves, means first attempt, second attempt, third attempt kind of people, but they don't like fourth attempt, fifth attempt, sixth attempt. Generally, you can say there can be variations in that. And जो 6 साल से तैयारी कर रहा है और कोई 1 साल तैयारी किया है, all of you understand a bit of Hindi, right? So what happens is इसने 6 बार NCERT पढ़ी है और इसने 1 बार, लेकिन अगर मैं दे दूं करंट अफेयर्स तो इसके पास भी 1 साल है और इसके पास भी 1 साल है. That brings both kind of crowd at par. First thing. Second thing is UPSC hate coaching institutions. That's also a fact. Do you understand this? Because UPSC knows कि ये वही पढ़ाएंगे, हिस्ट्री, ज्योग्राफी, इकोनॉमी, पॉलिटी, पर ये छोड़ देंगे करंट अफेयर्स, ये छोड़ देंगे मैप मार्किंग. Do you understand this? These are the areas where you need to score. See, there are perhaps 5 pillars of this examination. First is your art and culture and history. Then is your geography. Then environment and ecology. Then is your economy. And then polity. And a bit a shadow of governance in it, but not as such. Over this perhaps rests the chances of success. Do you understand this? These are the areas where you should not commit any mistake. And what is left then? Current affairs, you can say map marking a bit or something like that. Here all good students who generally get called for mains do not commit any errors. And here they try to correct 1 or 2 questions more than the rest of the crowd. Means जहाँ सब सही हैं वहाँ गलती मत करना, और जहाँ सब गलत है मैक्सिमम वहाँ एक आध सही कर दो. बस कंपटीशन रिलेटिव है, चीज़ें सही हो जाएंगी आपके लिए. Do you understand this? So this is what you have to ensure. So see, current affairs is a vast ocean to traverse. I understand that. But if you have done these sections very diligently, you will find that current affairs becomes very easy suddenly, because most of the current question you will see that they are linked to these portions or concepts, obviously with some shades of facts, but such facts you can do. Also, economic survey. Some students has this, they harbor this conception that economic survey is only important for mains. That is not the case. Economic survey is gold dust for preliminary examination, you will find. And so is the union budget. Have you seen that for say last 2-3 years there are questions regularly on the union budget? So union budget also becomes very, very crucial for you. So we'll start with geography today. Wherever current affairs become relevant, we'll try to bring in current affairs there. But one thing you keep in mind, that this map marking, don't worry about it. There is a separate module on it, and we'll exclusively devote 2 or 3, how many classes I don't know have been allotted, but we will devote it entirely to current map marking. And map marking also, you see, they'll ask questions of those places that are in news now. They will not ask you Ganga, or they will not ask you where is Western Ghats. Do you understand? There are few hotspots of map marking. One is West Asia. It's very favorite of UPSC. You'll find UPSC will ask which of the countries touch the Persian Gulf or something like that. Second is Southeast Asia. It's also like ये भी question आया था कि arrange the following cities from south to north. Do you remember that some time back? Then is your South America, especially Central America, South America. That is one. And perhaps you can say the most dear continent to UPSC is Africa. There's a lot of interest on Africa. कई बार आप देखोगे कि Atlas Mountain Ranges पूछ चुके हैं, तिब्बती पूछ चुके हैं, बहुत कुछ पूछ चुके हैं वो लोग. ठीक है? So Africa also becomes very important. A new interest zone is Central Asia, especially after the Chabahar. Do you understand? There's renewed interest and zeal in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. These are 2 other sections. When it comes to India map marking, a lot of focus is on Northeast India, clear, and South India. कोई तुमसे ये नहीं पूछ रहा मार्क करो जयपुर किधर है. Nobody is going to ask you that, clear. But a lot of focus is on Northeast India, mainly because UPSC perhaps thrives on the ignorance of us regarding that part of our country. And secondly, South India, because you'll see sometimes the names are very confusing, like Eramala, Nalamala, Velikunda, Palkonda. It gives a kind of, it creates a kind of confusion ki kya hai, Andhra mein hai, ye hai. And perhaps after creation of Telangana, it's very difficult now to ascertain कि ये mountain जो है तेलंगाना cross करता है या नहीं करता है. Do you understand this? But if you have understood the physiography of India, even if you have no idea where the things are, you can make an intelligent guess. It is that quality that I'll try to engender in you. Now you see that the first thing is you have to think with an open mind. What do I mean by this? Most of us feel that this is the only way or this is the only strategy by which success is assured to us. That's not a fact. There are many ways to reach to the same goal. So if you are reading a certain concept and you see that perhaps it is contradicting somewhere else, wait for that thing. Perhaps I'll bring that into picture. And if you have any doubts, make sure that you ask it here itself. Why? See, there's an advantage of that. Suppose you ask a doubt in the class, and I'll give you ample amount of opportunity to do that. Someone else might be harboring a similar kind of doubt, which you have not thought of. And by listening to your question, that person maybe can be influenced, and he or she can also ask the same question or a different kind of question, and that would enrich your knowledge. It is through deliberations and through questions that is how your knowledge is enriched. It is not by reading, it is by thinking. Who gets into the list? Who reads less and thinks more. Are you understanding this? So we'll start our bursting module on geography. It's a 12-day session. Now you see, emphasis will not be on a lot of writing, because I'll give you some printed notes that would be like a bullet kind of thing. But side by side, we'll write in bullet format. Because अगर मैंने notes बना लिए 500 पन्ने के, वैसे ही सारे subject के बना लिए, एक दिन पहले मैं क्या पढ़ूंगा? Do you understand this? It's just we have to carry a synopsis kind of thought. That will help us. Clear? So when I discuss the topic, you drop your pen, close your book. Look here, and I'll make you write whatever is relevant. Clear? So we begin with geography. First thing that we must understand is what is the meaning of this word. Now you see, the word geography is derived from two Greek words. One is geo, the other one is graphia or graphy. Geo means earth or earth-like. Actually, the word geo is a short form of the word geoid. Geoid means typically like the globe is a geoid. Are you understanding this? So geo means earth, whereas graphy means to describe or to write an account of. Then literally, what becomes the definition of geography? It means to describe the earth or to write an account about the earth. That is geography. Now what kind of description am I talking about? Description of earth can be, say, for example, a part of the solar system, or earth can be described like it has 3 layers, core, mantle, crust, or have you heard about Sial, Sima and Nife? Clear? But I'm not interested in that kind of description, because describing the interior of the earth is a geological description, whereas describing earth as a component of the universe is an astronomical description. We are interested in geographical description. And what is that geographical description? It means that how things are arranged over the surface of the earth. That description is geographical description. It means geography is to describe how things are arranged over the surface of earth. Clear? And what are these things? These things can be either natural things or artificial things. It means things that are created by nature or by God, depending upon whether you are a theist or an atheist. And secondly, things that are created by man. For example, you think of, like, if you just go out of this classroom, you will find that there is soil, you'll find there is also air, and you'll find also the metro bridges and the metro going around, some shops. So there are things that are created by man over the surface of the earth, and there are things that are created by nature. Nature creates land, water, air, animals, and plants, flora, fauna. Do you understand this? This is only nature's creation. Whereas man creates what? You say population, settlements, these are all created by man. Then industries, agriculture. बस यही तो आपका geography है. It is the study of natural features and man-made features over the surface of the earth. When you study natural features, it becomes physical geography. When you study man-made features, it becomes human geography. Like study of population becomes population geography. Study of agriculture becomes agricultural geography. Study of land becomes lithosphere or your geomorphology. But I shall not use that term because that's an optional term. Study of air becomes the study of atmosphere. Study of water becomes the study of oceans. Study of flora and fauna becomes your environmental geography, which now is a separate subject, at least for your preliminary examination. And this subject holds key in your preliminary examination. Why? Because you know now the Civil Services Examination and the Forest Services Examination, they are combined. And if you are clubbed with Forest Services, definitely you should expect some questions on environment. And that is why the ratio of environment related questions are falling in mains. 1 or 2 questions maximum, because most of them are asked in the preliminary examination. Are you clear with that? So what is geography? Geography is to describe how things are arranged over the surface of the earth. What things? Natural things and artificial things. The study of natural things become physical geography, whereas the study of artificial things become human geography. It is the study of social, economic, and cultural aspects of man over the surface of the earth. Do you understand this? Now, description can be of 2 types. One is with respect to time, and second is with respect to space. Geography is a spatial science. It is not a temporal science. Temporal science means you describe, suppose I describe this classroom with respect to time. I would say at say 11:30 or 11:45, this is the scenario. There is the podium, here I am standing, and here are the chairs, here the students are sitting. That is with respect to time. I said how things are arranged. Then I say that say 1 hour from now, what will happen to this classroom? Or 2 hours from now, what will happen to this classroom? Who were sitting here yesterday? Who was teaching here yesterday? Do you understand this? That is with respect to time. Whereas when I say with respect to space, I mean how things or where things are placed. And when things are placed, if I take a snapshot here, then you can understand, I can see a pattern. It means where are the chairs, where you people are sitting, where am I standing, where are the lights, so on and so forth. Are you understanding? Such spatial description, it means how things are arranged over a surface, is known as chorological description. Whereas description with respect to time is known as chronological description. Chronological description is the domain of history, whereas chorological description is the domain of geography. So I'm putting it again back in a nutshell. Geography is to describe the physical features and man-made features over the surface of the earth, and the description is a spatial description. Are you clear with that? So let's write this. So you can write a question, what is geography? What is geography? The word geography has been derived from 2 Greek words, namely geo, meaning earth, and Graphy. Yeah. Graphy meaning to describe. So literally put, geography is the description of the earth. Geography is the study of how natural features and man-made features are arranged over the surface of the earth. Hence, geography is a spatial science. Unlike history, which is a temporal science. In simple words, in geography, the reference frame is space. Bracket में लिख लो, surface of the earth. We are talking about that space. In geography, the reference frame is space. In bracket you can write the surface of the earth. Whereas in history, the reference frame is time. Put a full stop and you write a note. Geography studies chorology. Geography studies chorology. Whereas history studies chronology. Do you understand this? So what becomes the subject matter of geography? Everything. Everything becomes the subject matter of geography. Anything that can be expressed over a map of the world or a part thereof becomes the subject matter of geography, because things would be either natural things or man-made things, and we are talking about their arrangement over the surface of the earth. Like, can I give you a question that write an account on how fold mountains are arranged over the surface of the earth? And also give a question on iron and steel industries. Forget about that. English speaking people over the surface of the earth. It means anything that can be expressed over the surface of the earth becomes a subject matter of geography. So you write a note 2, right? Everything that can be expressed over the world map or a part thereof becomes the subject matter of geography. So are you clear with the definition? Geography is to describe the natural and man-made features over the surface of the earth. Clear? And what is the subject matter? Everything that can be expressed over the map of the world or a part thereof. So the next question that must come to my mind is, what is the aim behind this description? Why I'm trying this description? The aim is to understand the total environment. Now you drop your pen and you look here. What do I mean by the total environment? Now environment, what do you understand by environment? Everything that surrounds you, that becomes your environment. And things that surround you are either created by nature or created by man. Do you understand this? So you have a natural environment and you have a cultural environment. A cultural environment is one which is created by man. Are you understanding this? So I'm trying to show you, so suppose this is my natural environment. And what kind of natural environment? It is my natural abiotic environment. It means lifeless environment. And it basically has land, water and air. These are the main features. Clear? And then you have the natural environment, but this is the biotic environment. It contains flora and fauna. And they both interact. That's why I'm showing this overlap. Are you understanding this? And the environment which is created by man is the cultural environment. Now, what is created by man? First, man reproduce, so man creates population. Man build houses, so man creates settlements. Man engage in some economic activities like agriculture, industry, services, and man also does some sort of planning, that is, say, regional plans. Are you understanding this? This is cultural environment, and man during agriculture interacts with flora, fauna, and interacts with land, water, air. So there is a kind of overlap in all these three environments. What is the aim of geography? The aim of geography is to understand the total environment. This is the biotic natural, this is the abiotic natural environment, this is the biotic natural environment. It means the non-living natural environment and the living natural environment, whereas this is the cultural environment. This is created by man, whereas these are created by nature. The total environment is this zone. It is the overlapping zone, which is your biosphere. Are you understanding this? Now, this biotic environment, you see the beauty of this subject. This is now a different subject at all, at least for the preliminary. It is your environment and ecology. So we are interested in this. The study of land is lithosphere, the study of water is hydrosphere, study of air is atmosphere. You got population geography, settlement geography, agriculture geography, industrial geography, trade transport geography, and some planning, elementary regional planning. If we do that for world and India, our syllabus is done. Are you understanding this? So the aim of geography is to understand the total environment, whereas geography itself is the science of description. What kind of description? Spatial description. It means how things are arranged over a particular surface. Is that clear? So you write a question. What is the aim of geography? What is the aim of geography? Right? The aim of geography is to understand the total environment. The total environment is a zone of overlap between three kinds of environment. Three kinds of environment, namely, or viz dot, the natural abiotic environment, in bracket you can write land, water, air, soil, put a semicolon, natural biotic environment, in bracket you can write flora and fauna, and the cultural environment, in bracket you can write man-made environment. The study of natural environment is physical geography, whereas study of cultural environment is human geography. You can quickly draw this diagram, that would help. write a note that an environment is everything that surrounds a being or a thing. Environment is everything that surrounds a being or a thing. Clear? So next that we will try to understand is how landforms are formed. Clear? Here two things we have to distinguish. Now look here, drop your pens, look here. There are two things. First is the term landforms and other is the term landscape. I hope you have heard at least these two terms. What is the difference between landforms and landscape? Landform is an individual entity, like for example a mountain, a plateau, a plain, something like that. That is the landform. Whereas what is the landscape? Landscape is a mosaic of different landforms. It's an assemblage of different landforms. Clear? And we'll try to understand how landforms are formed, whereas landscape evolve over a period of time. Clear? So you write this, give the heading, landforms and landscapes. Landforms are individual geomorphic entities like mountain, plateau, plains, etc. Whereas landscape is an assemblage of different landforms. Landforms are created and destroyed. While landscape evolve over a period of time. Now, can you understand? The Western Ghats is a landform, whereas the peninsular plateau is a landscape. So you write example. The Western Ghats is a landform, whereas the peninsular plateau is a landscape. Now you see, I understand that I am trying to understand that how landforms are formed. I know that suppose there is a mountain over the surface of the earth, and with time you can understand that there would be perhaps some rainfall over it, and with time this mountain would be eroded by running water perhaps, and this would decrease its height to perhaps the base level. Are you understanding this? So there must be some force that is creating the landform, and there is definitely a force here, in this case a running water, which is destroying the landforms. So landforms at any given point of time is nothing but an expression between two kinds of forces. Forces that are generating from the interior of the earth and forces that are generating from the earth's atmosphere. Are you clear with that? Forces that generate from the interior of the earth are known as endogenetic forces, and the forces that generate from earth's atmosphere are known as exogenetic forces. Since endogenetic forces are always involved in creation of landforms, and landforms not only mean some upstanding feature, it can be also depression, for example a syncline, that's also a landform. Do you understand this? So forces that generate from the interior of the earth, they are known as endogenetic forces. They create landforms, therefore they are known as builders. Do you understand this? Whereas exogenetic forces that generate from the Earth's atmosphere, like running water, glacier, wind, etc., they destroy existing landforms. Therefore, they are known as destroyers. And at any given point of time, any landform is nothing but a ratio between endogenetic upliftment and exogenetic downcutting. If the endogenetic upliftment is happening at a faster pace, then the landform will keep on rising. Its height would keep on growing. But if the exogenetic downcutting is happening at a faster pace, then the landform would continuously lose height. Are you understanding this? It's a simple mathematical equation. If the numerator is greater, the equation would be more than 1. If the denominator is greater, the equation would be less than 1. As simple as that. Are you understanding this? Now, what is the force? Okay, these are the forces that create landform, but what are the reason behind the generation of these forces? The forces that generate the exogenetic forces, or the actual force that generates exogenetic force, is the sun. See, actually it is the sun that caused the evaporation. Clear? And evaporation led to cloud formation, condensation, and then rainfall, and then perhaps running water came into existence. Glaciers also depend to some extent about the effect of the sun. Do you understand this? Winds also, because you have a high pressure area, you have a low pressure area which can be thermally induced. Clear? And winds blow from high pressure to low pressure. So who is the ultimate source? Sun. So exogenetic forces are destroyers, sun being the ultimate source for their energy. Are you understanding this? Whereas what is the source behind the endogenetic forces? Let me be very frank, we do not know, because man has not, it means man has not surged deep enough into the earth. The only depth that man has gone is only up to 4 kilometers, that too in South Africa in search of gold. So only greed has taken man to that depth, whereas the radius of the earth is 6371 kilometers. So you can understand it's not even 1% of that. Are you understanding this? Therefore, we do not understand that what is the reason behind the generation of endogenetic forces. But geologists believe that with increasing depth, the pressure increases because the load increases. Do you understand this? If I increase the pressure, what would happen? The temperature would increase. Like the moment I put pressure, see my hand becomes red. It means there is some sort of temperature generation. Are you understanding this? Pressure creates temperature. So with increase in depth, there is increase in pressure because the overlying load of rocks keep on increasing. Do you understand this? This in geography is known as superincumbent load, or the overlying load. And because of this increase in load, there is increase in pressure, and because of increase in pressure, there is increase in temperature. Are you understanding this? Now you see that if there is increase in temperature and with depth there is increase in pressure, there will come a point when the temperature would be high enough to melt the rocks. Do you understand this? And there is definitely one such layer, which is the asthenosphere, where the rocks are melt under the impact of increased temperature. Do you understand this? Some geologists believe that it is this internal heat that is the reason for creation of these landforms or generation of endogenetic forces, because heat causes what? Expansion. Do you understand this? Anything that gets heated up will expand, and the rocks are not made up of same type of elements. It means there is difference in nature of rocks, so the expansion would also be different, and hence you would have some difference in height. Perhaps that is the reason some geologists believe, but let me tell you very frankly, we do not understand. That's only an intelligent guess. Some also feel that in the interior of the earth there is concentration of radioactive elements. What are radioactive elements? Those elements that generate heat on disintegration, and heat in the form of radiation like alpha, beta and gamma rays. So perhaps heat, they believe, is the reason for generation of these endogenetic forces. Also you see that, can you understand that heavier things sink while lighter things rise? Are you understanding this? So when heavier things sink, you know the earth is made out of different layers like Sial, Sima and Nife. In the geological past, the earth was not a solid, but it was liquid and it was losing heat and was becoming a solid with passage of time. So when it is liquid, things can move when there is difference in density. For example, think of this glass. This glass has a lot of density when compared to this marker. But if I keep this glass over this marker, it is not going down. Why? Because these are solids. Do you understand this? But imagine this glass to be of liquid and this marker to be of liquid. What would happen? They would rearrange themselves. Such kind of rearrangement is possible in liquids and gases, but not in solids. It means earth was not a solid. Earth was once a liquid or a gas. Do you understand this? And by deeper studies, we understand that earth is nothing but a child of the sun, and it was a gaseous body once, then it became a liquid body, and today it is a solid body. So when it was liquid, things got rearranged. Do you understand this? As things got rearranged, they got rearranged with respect to their densities. It means heavier things sank, whereas lighter things, they rose. Do you understand this? This process is known as differentiation, because now different layers are created as per density differences. Are you understanding this? And this happened because of gravity. Do you understand this? Heavier things sink because of gravity. If there is no gravity, there is no point of coming down. Do you understand this? So this is causing a gravity heat transfer. What is this gravity heat transfer? When heavier things sink, can you understand? It will create an impact, and as would create an impact because there are different layers sinking over each other. So it will create an impact. And the impact creates friction, and friction generates heat. So perhaps, see, we do not understand what is the reason for endogenetic forces, but perhaps three reasons. First is the superincumbent load generated pressure induced temperature. First. Second is the concentration of radioactive minerals at some depth in the earth, or the gravity related heat transfer happened during the differentiation period of the earth. Are you understanding this? So perhaps these are the reason behind the generation of endogenetic forces. I am repeating again, the forces that create landforms are of two types, endogenetic and exogenetic. Exogenetic forces are destroyers, whereas endogenetic forces are builders. Endogenetic forces emanate from the interior of the earth. Real reason we do not understand, perhaps these three are reason. And exogenetic forces generate from the earth's atmosphere, sun being the ultimate source of energy. Do you understand this? You give the heading endogenetic forces and exogenetic forces. Any landform is an expression of the constant struggle that goes on between two set of forces. Viz, or namely, endogenetic and exogenetic forces. You write a bullet. Endogenetic forces emanate from Earth's interior. And are the reason behind creation of landforms. Whereas exogenetic forces emanate from Earth's atmosphere and are responsible for destruction of the landforms. You write a note. It is the rate of endogenetic upliftment. It is the rate of endogenetic upliftment and exogenetic downcutting. It is the rate of endogenetic upliftment and exogenetic downcutting that determines the height of the landform at any given point of time. Is that understood? Self-explanatory? It is nothing. I am talking about this ratio. If the endogenetic upliftment is as a faster pace than exogenetic downcutting, the landfall will keep on rising. But if the exogenetic downcutting is at a faster pace, then its height would be successively reduced. You write the next bullet. Endogenetic forces are known as builders, whereas exogenetic forces are known as destroyers. The sun is believed to be the real force behind the generation of exogenetic forces like running water, glacier, winds, etc. You write a note. The real reason behind the generation of endogenetic forces is not properly understood. Because man's knowledge about the interior of the earth is very meager. Meager means less, very meager. However, it is believed that the heat in the interior of the earth is perhaps the reason behind generation of endogenetic forces. This heat is believed to be generated by either or all of the following reasons. By either or all of the following reasons. First, you write, with increase in depth, the superincumbent load increases. The superincumbent load increases. In bracket you can write overlying load of the rocks. Overlying load of the rocks. Close the bracket. This load increases the pressure and this pressure perhaps generates the heat. This overlying load increases pressure and this pressure perhaps generates the heat. Second, you write, some geologists believe that at some depth there is concentration of radioactive elements that generate radiations on disintegration. In bracket you can write alpha, beta, gamma rays. Radiations on disintegration. In bracket you can write alpha, beta, gamma. Close the bracket. This radiation perhaps generates the heat. Why am I using the term perhaps? Because I am not sure. Clear? Third, you write, when the earth was cooling, rocks rearranged themselves on the basis of density differences. Heavier rocks, you can write in bracket, rich in elements like iron, nickel, etc. Heavier rocks, in bracket you can write, rich in elements like iron, nickel, etc. sank, while lighter rocks, in bracket you can write, that contained silica, aluminium, etc. rose. Lighter rocks rose. Clear? Close the bracket. This process is known as differentiation. This process is known as differentiation. Gravity was responsible for differentiation. Hence, the heat is perhaps gravity-induced heat. Heat is perhaps gravity-induced heat. Clear? Are you clear with that? So, endogenetic forces are builders, whereas exogenetic forces are destroyers. Reason for exogenetic forces? Sun. Reason for endogenetic forces? Heat in the interior of the earth. What is the reason for that heat? Not properly understood. Today we are highlighting three reasons. Perhaps with modern day research we can find other reasons as well. Do you understand this? Because man has not explored to greater depths. In fact, it is easier to explore the sun than to explore the core of the earth. Do you understand? Because the temperature at the core of the earth is much more than the photosphere of the sun. Do you understand? Photosphere is the outermost layer of the sun. This is nearly about 6,000 degree Fahrenheit. But in the interior of the earth, there is much more temperature.
Are these two words the same? Differences in gravity and gravity heat differences?
Yes, more or less the same. Interchangeably you can use. Clear? Now you see, any landform can be created in two ways. First, it can be created quickly or it may take time to create. Do you understand this? When it say it takes a lot of time to create, these are slow endogenetic forces, whereas which creates quick landforms, they are quick endogenetic forces. But more technical terms are diastrophic forces and catastrophic forces or sudden forces. Clear? So endogenetic forces are divided into two types. One is diastrophic and the second is catastrophic. Diastrophic forces are those forces, they are both landform builders, but they take a very long period of time, so much so that the changes cannot be appreciated by a human being during his lifetime. For example, a mountain has attained a height of 1 centimeter over 10 years. You will not be able to find that. Do you understand this? Like suppose the mountain is, what is the height of Mount Everest? 8848 what? Meters. So suppose it becomes 8848.00001 meters in 2019. इतना तो human error हो जाता है calculation में. Do you understand this? So diastrophic forces create landform over a long period of time, so much so that the changes brought about by them, you cannot appreciate them during your lifetime. Do you understand this? Whereas catastrophic forces or sudden forces, the name is suggesting, they create quick landforms like earthquakes or volcanoes. Do you understand this? Like suppose there is an earthquake at a place, there can be a chance that some ground shifts or there is some rise of a particular land. Do you understand this? So these are sudden landform developers, whereas these are diastrophic landform developers. Are you understanding this? No need of going in much detail of that because that is not the ken of general studies. But simple, one thing I have to understand, that diastrophic forces, for example, fold mountain formations, like Himalayas were formed throughout the tertiary period. That's why they are young fold mountains. The Aravallis or the Appalachians, have you heard about the Appalachians? Where are they? In Northeast America. Don't worry, we'll do that in map marking. So what I'm trying to say is they are also old fold mountains. Like Himalayas are young fold mountains, they are old fold mountains. They were created during the Paleozoic era. This Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic are geological eras. Do you understand this? Now, what I'm saying that, for example, formation of fold mountains or block mountains. Block mountains means, say, have you seen some mountains with rift valleys? These mountains are block mountains. They are created due to faulting, whereas these are created due to folding. We'll understand that in some time. They are diastrophic events, whereas volcanic mountains are sudden events. Do you understand this? Because they are created suddenly, or earthquake generated ground shifting is a sudden creation of landform. A landform will be created the moment there is some change in altitude. Are you understanding this? So you write a next bullet. The endogenetic forces can be categorized into two types. A, diastrophic forces, and B, sudden forces or catastrophic forces. Right? Diastrophic forces take enormous length of time to create a landform. The time consumed is so much that the changes brought about in the landform are not easily recognized by a human during his or her lifetime. Right? Sudden forces, on the other hand, generate landforms within a very short period of time. And the changes brought about by them are easily recognizable by a human being during his or her lifetime. Right? For example, creation of fold mountains, block mountains, etc. For example, creation of fold mountains, block mountains, etc. are diastrophic events, whereas creation of volcanic mountains are sudden events. Do you understand this? Now, you see, two next things that we must understand is what is the difference between folding and faulting. Now you see, when two blocks of rocks, they move towards each other under the impact of compressive forces, if there is a syncline between them and it is filled with sediments, then this sediment is squeezed. You can understand that. The sediments would be squeezed. Such squeezing up of sediments and creation of landform is example of folding. Are you understanding this? Like the Indian plate moved towards the Eurasian plate and squeezed the sediments that were there on the Tethys geosyncline. Are you understanding this? Folding happens under compressive forces. Are you understanding this? It is nothing but crustal bending. Do you understand this? Do you have a piece of paper? A free paper? Now look here. What I'm trying to say. Is this visible to everyone? Now you see, if I put compression, it would create a fold. Are you understanding this? But if I put tension, don't worry, what would happen? What would happen? The page would, I would just tear the page. Do you understand this? So, tensional forces break the crust, whereas compressional forces fold the crust. Do you understand this? We'll understand that in more detail as we go to things like plate tectonics and all. But just a beginning of that is folding is crustal bending and happens under compressive stress, whereas faulting is crustal fracture and happens under tensional stress. Now imagine this, that how much I would fold this would depend upon the elasticity of the object, it means the elasticity of rocks, and the degree of forces applied by me. It means greater the compression and greater the elasticity, highest is the folding. Are you understanding this? Or greatest is the folding. And folding also depends, say, up to a certain point. For example, say if I fold this duster, and suppose that I have that much strength, I would fold it to a certain point, but beyond that, if I apply more compression, what would happen? It would break. So extreme compression can also cause crustal fracture. Compression generally causes crustal bending. Such bending is known as folding. Tension causes crustal fracture. Such fracture is known as faulting. However, extreme compression can cause crustal fracture too. Do you understand this? When tension creates fracture, it is known as fault, and such faults are known as normal faults. When compression causes fracture, they are known as reverse faults. Do you understand this? We'll understand that more. So you write just the beginning, give the heading folding and faulting. Folding is crustal bending. Folding is crustal bending, which occurs due to compressional forces. The degree of folding depends upon the strength of the compressional forces and the elasticity of the crustal rocks. Faulting occurs due to tensional forces. In other words, tensional forces cause crustal fracture. The degree of crustal fracture also depends upon the strength of tensional forces and the elasticity of rocks. Do you understand this? Now, you see that, suppose, give me the paper again. Now see that if suppose I have a paper which extends from that corner to that corner of the room. Do you understand this? And someone holds it from that end and someone else holds it from that end. And I ask both these people to move towards each other. Do you understand? It's a kind of compressive force, clear? And it will create some sort of bending. But if it's a huge paper, can you understand it will create wave-like bendings? Do you understand this? Now what I'm trying to say is, if I do this, can you see that there is an upfolded part, but there would also be a downfolded part, like this. Can you understand? If it's a very big paper, things like this will happen. The upfolded part is known as anticline, whereas the downfolded part is known as syncline. When this syncline occurs at huge geographical proportions, it is known as geosyncline. For example, the Tethys geosyncline. Do you understand this? And when this anticline happens at huge geographical proportion, it becomes a fold mountain. Are you clear with that? Whereas what are folds? Folds are wave-like structures. Wave means oscillatory movements having crests and troughs. The crests become fold mountains, whereas the troughs become valleys. Do you understand this? Or geosyncline. Like you have the Pir Panjal, then you have the Kashmir Valley, then you have the Great Himalayas. Can you understand this? Nepal Valley, all valleys are between folds. Valleys are actually what? They are synclines, whereas mountains are anticlines. So all folds have two parts, upfolded part and downfolded part. Do you understand this? Sure, right? Right? The structure, yes.
Sir, this incline, can we consider this incline as sir, faulting example, sir, faulting.
We'll come to faulting. Let's write about fold first. We'll come to faulting. So, right? Any fold has two parts. An upfolded part and a downfolded part. The upfolded part is known as anticline, whereas the downfolded part is known as syncline. In bracket you can write, folds are wave-like features with alternative crests and troughs. Folds are wave-like features with alternative crests and trough. Clear? So right. When anticlines occur at huge geographical proportions, they become fold mountains. When anticlines occur at huge geographical proportions, they become fold mountains. Whereas when synclines occur at huge geographical proportions, they become geosyncline. Right? For example, the Himalayas are a fold mountain, whereas the Tethys was a geosyncline. So are you clear with that? So there is for every fold an upfolded part and a downfolded part. The upfolded part is anticline, the downfolded part is syncline, or you can say fold mountains and valleys. Clear? So you can write one more example if you want, right? The Great Himalayas and the Pir Panjal are examples of fold mountains. Whereas the Valley of Kashmir which is sandwiched between them, the Valley of Kashmir which is sandwiched between them is an example of synclinal valley. Can I say the agents of erosion? It means the exogenetic forces, also known as geomorphic agents or the agents of erosion. They erode the upfolded part and deposit the sediments in the downfolded part all the time. That's the work they are doing, and that's how they would level it. Are you understanding this? See, right? The exogenetic forces or the agents of erosion erode the upfolded parts and deposit the sediments in the low-lying basins. And that is how they bring changes in altitude of a landform. Clear? Now you imagine something like this. Can you understand? It is a anticline, then you've got a syncline, another anticline, syncline, anticline, and perhaps this is the mean sea level. Are you understanding this? Now imagine some agents of erosion. It would erode and deposit everything here. Do you understand this? But it would also get eroded and things would get deposited here. And whatever is eroded here is perhaps taken to the ocean and becomes ocean deposits because it's the biggest syncline. Are you understanding this? Now imagine this, that this has been eroded and this is perhaps the new height, and this is the new height, and perhaps this is the new height. The same process will again continue. It would keep on eroding. So the process of erosion goes on till the landform is reduced to the mean sea level. This level of erosion is known as the base level of erosion. Are you understanding this? When a landform is reduced to the mean sea level, and this will happen because things that are eroded from the anticline are deposited over the syncline. Do you understand this? Or rather we can say that upstanding blocks are eroded and low-lying basins are filled. This process goes on until the landform reaches the mean sea level or the base level of erosion. Are you understanding this? But you see, I cannot assume this, that this will go on and endogenetic process will cause no change. There's a great chance that the landform is getting eroded, so you can say it is a young landform because it is very upstanding, tall and freshly created perhaps, but with time it would become mature because it would get old and it would be eroded by the process of erosion, and then perhaps when it is totally eroded, I'll say it is dead. Do you understand this? So it's the old age of the landform. So Himalayas, have you heard that they are young fold mountains because they are still very high? Do you understand this? Whereas Aravalis are perhaps mature. Do you understand this? Mahendragiri Hills, where is Mahendragiri Hills? Odisha. They are also mature more or less because they are part of the peninsula. Peninsula is older than the Himalayas. Peninsula is the oldest. Himalayas have more or less say at the middle age, and whereas plains are the youngest. Do you understand this? So what I'm trying to say is you can understand that when the landform reaches its old age, or this I can say it's juvenile stage, this is its mature stage, and this is its senile stage. So if there is a line which says that peninsular India has mostly senile topography, it is correct. Do you understand this? Because it has faced forces of erosion for nearly 4 million years ago. Do you understand this? So it is continuously facing forces of erosion for 4 million years. Definitely it would be eroded. Whereas when you see Himalayas, they have not faced more than say 10 million, 15 million or something like that. Are you understanding this? So that is the change. Now you can understand when a landform is getting reduced from young to mature, endogenetic forces can again push it up and make it young again. Do you understand this? Such interruptions by endogenetic forces are known as rejuvenation. For example, have you heard about River Colorado in United States of America? It is experiencing rejuvenation. Narmada is experiencing rejuvenation, where there is some endogenetic interruptions in exogenetic work. Are you clear with that? So do you understand base level of erosion, and do you understand these stages, and do you understand rejuvenation? Clear? So write down. all landforms are reduced by exogenetic forces till they attain the base level of erosion. In bracket you can write the mean sea level. Clear? So you write landforms generally pass through a cycle and evolve like an organism. That is in different stages. That is in different stages. Namely, young stage, mature stage, and old stage. A young landform is characterized by now you look here. Can I say a young landform is characterized by high altitude, correct? Steep gradient, can you see the angle? When it becomes mature, the angle is getting reduced, clear? So right, is characterized by high altitude and steep gradient. And you tell me, if you have got steep gradient, if that is the case, imagine this. Suppose, imagine this. If I just increase the gradient, now suppose I drop some water over it, clear, this is case 1, and I do not change the amount of water, but I only increase the gradient in case 2. What would happen to the flow of water? Will the velocity increase or decrease with increase in gradient? Increase. It means young fold mountains will create swift flowing rivers. Clear? Therefore Himalayan rivers are young rivers. Clear? अब देखो जो जितना यंग होगा वो उतना फास्ट होगा, तो बच्चों को देखो वो कभी रुकते ही नहीं है, दौड़ते रहते हैं. Do you understand this? So right. Young landform features create youthful rivers or young rivers. The young rivers are swiftly flowing rivers. For example, the Himalayan rivers, Ganga, Gandak, Yamuna, etc. Clear? A senile landform or old landform, a senile landform is marked by a very gradual gradient. And reduced altitude. You write a note. The peninsular block is an example of senile topography. because it has experienced and have faced erosion for nearly 4,000 million years. It was part of the ancient Gondwana land. We'll understand that in other classes, don't worry. What is Gondwana, what is Laurasia and all, when we discuss things like continental drift and all. So you're right.
senile को ही mature stage बोलते हैं.
Senile old है.
Old.
हाँ. Juvenile young है. Actually, a word juvenile और senile इनका legal connotation होता है. The word juvenile जब भी use करता हूँ, I use it in terms of law, but I'm using it interchangeably. That gives some like some sort of beauty to your writing. That's it. Clear? Now, you see, think about tensional stress. If I put some tension, what would happen? First, it would crack. Imagine I have that much of strength that if I pull it, what would happen? It would first crack, and then if I keep pulling, it would go apart from. One block will go away from the other. Are you understanding this? So crustal fracture can appear in two ways. First is when there is no appreciable movement of the rock blocks in and around the zone of fracture. It means only a minor crack. And the second is when they move and you can recognize the movement in and around the crack. When there is no appreciable movement, it is known as a joint. When there is appreciable movement, it is known as a fault. Are you clear with that? So you're right. Crustal fracture can take two forms. First, when there is no appreciable movement of the rock blocks. In and around the zone of fracture. This is known as a joint. Now you tell me, there are two landforms. One is highly jointed, it means highly cracked, and the other one is jointless, it means total crystalline, it means like cementified. Do you understand this? Which will be more prone to erosion? The jointed one or the jointless one? Jointed one. It means joints facilitate erosion. So you write this. Joints facilitate erosion. Underline this. When there is appreciable movement of rock blocks in and around the fracture or zone of fracture, it is known as faults. Faults can be created either by tension or by extreme compression. And created by tension or by extreme compression. Faults created by tension are known as normal faults, whereas faults created due to compression are known as reverse faults. अच्छा, हमने रिजुविनेशन के बारे में कुछ नहीं लिखा ना, तो एक कहीं पर नोट लिख लो. अच्छा, एक काम करना, जो भी आप नोट्स बना रहे हो उसमें एक मार्जिन ज़रूर छोड़ना, बिकॉज आई मे रिमेंबर सम थिंग्स एंड आई विल टेल यू. क्लियर? सो हैव दैट लिबर्टी कि आप कहीं लिख सको. सो यू राइट, व्हेन exogenetic down cutting is interrupted by endogenetic upliftment, it is known as rejuvenation. Rejuvenation means when a old landform reattains youthful features. It is reattainment of juvenility. That is rejuvenation. Are you understanding this? So right, rejuvenations, in other word, means reattainment of youthful features. Reattainment of youthful features. Write an example. The river Colorado. The river Colorado and Narmada are experiencing rejuvenation. Clear? So now you see one thing. Joints or faults? हाँ, देखो. What I'm trying to say is tension creates crustal fracture. Suppose I have applied that much tension कि fracture तो हो गया, बस एक crack आया है. मतलब कुछ movement तो हुआ है, but there is no appreciable movement. See the term that I have used, appreciable movement. Appreciable movement में आप बता नहीं सकते कि हाँ rocks बहुत ज़्यादा move किए हैं कि नहीं. It's kind of say hairline crack or something like that. Do you understand this? But when there is appreciable movement, you called it fault. Are you clear with that? So there are two types of crustal fracture. Joints. हाँ, अगर देखो joint होगा highly. अच्छा, एक बात सोचो कि suppose there is say a landform which is at this angle. Suppose I'm carrying a tray. Over this I have filled mud. Clear? But I have compacted the mud and I have cemented it, or I have polished it. Do you understand this? And now I drop some water. Case 1. Case 2, I have polished it, but what I have done, have you seen an instrument which is used in construction? It's like this. It is used for polishing. Have you seen? समझ लो वही वाला इंस्ट्रूमेंट है मेरे पास, और मैंने पॉलिश तो किया, उसके बाद मैंने उसको एज से ऐसे उस पर लाइंस खींच दिए, या मैंने अपनी उंगलियों से ऐसे लाइन खींच दिया. अब मैंने पानी गिराया. किस केस में ज़्यादा इरोजन होगा? दूसरे केस में. इट मीन्स जॉइंट्स फैसिलिटेट इरोजन. आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग दिस? नाउ लुक हियर. Now this is interesting and important for the examination. Look here. Imagine that I have a landform which has some fault lines. What are fault lines? Fault lines are weak zones or cracks. Clear? And can I say it's a highly jointed landform? Clear? And suppose this is what I am doing. I am applying tensional stress on it. And suppose this is first part, this is the third part, and this is second part. If I pull the first and the third, what would happen to the second? It would subside. It's like holding a book between two books. If I move these two books, what would happen to this book? If there is space, it would sink. Are you understanding this? So if I pull this, can you understand something like this would occur? Can you understanding this? Now you see, this is fault because there is appreciable movement of the rock blocks. Movement is not necessarily like this, it can be like this also. Do you understand this? It means from a jointed topography, it has now become a faulted topography. And the fault here is created due to tension. So it's a normal faulted topography. Are you clear with that? These are known as horsts. It means the upstanding portions, whereas the low-lying portions are known as grabens. So it's a horst and graben topography which are created due to tension. Are you understanding this? When these horsts are at huge geographical proportion, they become your block mountains, whereas when the grabens are at huge geographical proportion, they become your rift valleys. Are you understanding this? For example, the Narmada Rift Valley and the Satpura Block Mountain. Are you understanding this? Now, this is a normal faulted horst and graben topography. Do you understand this? Now consider this, situation 2. Suppose the fault lines are like this. Fault lines are nothing but cracks, but this time I am not applying tension, rather I am applying compression. What would happen if I compress this? What would happen, suppose this is first, this is second, and this is third. What would happen to the second rock block if I compress the first and second? What would happen to first and third? They would just move like this. Are you understanding this? So, something like this would occur. Can you understand this? But this is created due to compression, unlike this which was created due to tension. If this is a normal faulted topography, this will be a reverse faulted topography because extreme compression causes reverse fault, whereas tension causes normal fault. Do you understand this? Now you think of this situation, that this also becomes a horst and graben. This also becomes a block mountain and this becomes a rift valley. Horst and graben topography, best example over the map of the world is the Great East African Rift Valley. Have you heard about it? And there are two mountains, Mount Mitumba and Mount Muchinga, both in Kenya. Do you understand this? Which are examples of block mountains. So horst and graben topography can be generated either due to tensional stress or due to compressional stress. Are you clear with that? So give the heading horst and graben topography. किसमें? नॉर्मल. देखो जो हॉर्न ऑफ अफ्रीका है, आर यू अवेयर ऑफ द हॉर्न ऑफ अफ्रीका? दैट वुड गेट सेपरेटेड फ्रॉम द रेस्ट ऑफ अफ्रीका. और जो ग्रेट अफ्रीकन रिफ्ट वैली है वो कल का अटलांटिक ओशन है, वो अटलांटिक की तरह बन जाएगा. अटलांटिक जो आज है वो कल का पैसिफिक है, और पैसिफिक जो है वो आज का मेडिटेरेनियन बन जाएगा, और जो मेडिटेरेनियन है वो कल का टेथिस हो जाएगा. That is continental drift. We'll understand that, don't worry. So write horst and graben topography. Normal faulted topography and reverse faulted topography. Normal faulted topography and reverse faulted topography can create horst and graben structures. A horst is the upthrown block. Horst and graben structures. The horst is an upthrown block, whereas the graben is the down-thrown block. Horst of huge geographical expanse form block mountains whereas graben of huge geographical expanse form rift valley. For example, the Narmada Rift Valley, the East Africa Rift Valley, and the Satpura Block Mountain, Mount Mitumba Block Mountain, Mount Mitumba in Kenya. Clear? Now you see, here I am assuming these are actually faulting and folding are actually endogenetic processes because they are creating landforms. Do you understand this? But all landforms are also subjected to exogenetic forces. Just look here, I'll give you the time to draw. All landforms are continuously subjected to exogenetic forces. So imagine that, imagine this is created due to tensional fault and this is created due to compressional fault. Both are Horst and Graben topography, but they are both now under the impact of exogenetic forces. Can you understand? We know that exogenetic forces erode the upstanding part and deposit the low-lying basins, and this will happen on all sides. Do you understand this? With time, can I say this portion would be eroded and this kind of structure would evolve? Can you understand this? Imagine here also this portion and this portion would be eroded with time because it would be eroded and it would deposited, the basin would be deposited. So this would also be removed. Suppose you are standing here and perhaps this is covered by water now, assuming that the climate is humid. Do you understand this? Can you tell that whether this Horst and Graben is created due to normal fault or reverse fault? So in real world, distinguishing normally faulted topography from reverse faulted topography therefore becomes a challenge. Do you understand this? So you write a note. As, yes.
What is the practical advantage of the procedure? So how हम करेंगे क्या इसके बारे में जान के वो इससे हुआ है, but actually the process हुआ है और इरोजन हो रहा है.
हाँ.
हमें तो इस बात से वो रहना चाहिए सर. हमें actually में जान के करना क्या है कि यहाँ पे हुआ.
Means we should remain oblivious to the fact कि कुछ भी हो.
नहीं सर.
तो
कि यहाँ पे वो हुआ है. एक तरीके से वैल्यू फॉर्म हो रही है चाहे आपकी बन रही है चाहे. तो सर मतलब ये यहाँ पे ये नॉन समझ ज़्यादा सिम्प्लीफाइड नहीं.
हमको ये पता लगेगा कि ये एरिया जो है इट्स अंडर कंप्रेशन और टेंशन, ये पता लग जाएगा हमको.
सर ये वो तो ब्लॉक से है ना.
हाँ.
अब चाहे ब्लॉकिंग से हो रहा है ना.
ब्लॉकिंग से हो रहा है मतलब?
ब्लॉक माउंटेन से.
हाँ हाँ.
तो सर ये तो ऑब्वियस सी बात है, मैं इसे पता लग जाएगा.
हाँ, ब्लॉक माउंटेन हो रहा है, लेकिन किस वजह से बना है? कंप्रेशन की वजह से या टेंशन की वजह से? ये जानना आपके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है अर्थ की टेक्टोनिक्स को समझने के लिए. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस? इसकी ये यूटिलिटी है. इट्स यूटिलिटी इज ओनली फॉर जियोलॉजिस्ट. हमारे लिए एग्जाम क्लियर. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस? सो यू राइट अ नोट. इन द रियल वर्ल्ड कुछ लिखा क्या इससे पहले? एज द नॉर्मल faulted and reverse faulted features are continuously subjected to erosion, it becomes difficult to distinguish between them by a normal observer. So you draw these diagrams, and that is what all about today's class. Okay, one thing, that are you people comfortable if the class commences at 10 a.m. instead of 9? Okay, so then from tomorrow, for the benefit of all, clear? सर्दियाँ आ रही हैं. So we will conduct the classes from 10 a.m. from tomorrow onwards. Clear? So that's it from me. Thank you very much.